Hey everyone, this video is going to be talking about feeding in the NICU. So to me, this was one of the scariest things that we had to deal with a baby born at 31 weeks and 3 days, and you're going to find out why. At that age, at 31 weeks, babies don't have the reflex to suck, swallow, or breathe at the same time. So baby had to be on a feeding tube initially with an IV to make sure that she was getting all the vitamins and minerals and nutrition that she needed. Luckily, we were able to do breast milk still, and that was from the awesome moms that donate their breast milk to NICUs, which is amazing. So moms, if you have any extra breast milk, it will be going to good use. Trust me, I was a proponent, and I was able to use it a lot. By the time my milk came in, thankfully, she was probably a couple days old, and I was able to get some colostrum. So what we did was, since she wasn't able to fully feed from a bottle or breast at that time, we would just put some colostrum on a Q-tip, and we would just kind of run it around her mouth so she could get the flavor and she could get some of the extra nutrients from that liquid gold.
Thank you. I'll be out of your way.
What do you think? Is that good? Is that good stuff? One of the things that they had us do in the NICU was suck on a pacifier when the feeding tube was attached and it was currently just slowly pushing the milk into her tummy. Her belly was filling up, and so as she was sucking on that pacifier, it was telling her, okay, I suck, and then my tummy fills up. Initially, my plan was to exclusively breastfeed, but unfortunately, when you have a baby born that early, it's impossible when they're in the NICU because you're not going to be there 24/7 to feed your baby. So what we would do was, before we even started feeding with a bottle or breast, we would practice breastfeeding. And so we would put baby on breast, and she would just be there just to kind of explore and kind of figure out what was going on there. When I was at the NICU, I was able to breastfeed a little bit. So we would practice bottle feeding, which was very important. And then we would also switch off at breastfeeding as well. And when we weren't there, the nurses were able to practice bottle feeding with her. Learning how to feed our baby with a bottle was one of the scariest things ever because she would stop breathing during the feeds, and it was just a nightmare. So you had all these alarms going off while you're trying to feed your baby and you weren't sure what to do. So some of the people, we had an awesome speech language pathologist there to help us with our feeding, and she was very helpful. So I'm going to tell you the stuff that she told us. When your baby is distressed, they will give you these stressor signals. So one of them is when their hands splay. So splay just means that they're spreading out. So as you're watching your baby, when you're feeding them, just watch for their hands to be spread out. That means that they're in distress. Another thing to watch out for is rapid breathing. So if you see their chest or belly moving up and down really fast, it means that they're struggling to breathe. And then finally, one of the last things to look out for is slow eye blinks. So if your baby is opening their eyes very slowly and then closing their eyes very slowly, that means that they're getting very tired and possibly struggling to eat/breathe. I'll share a video of us doing the side-lying feeding. So side-lying is when you hold your baby just like the pictures and video are going to show, and we'll go through those first. Notice that she brings the bottle up when she wants the flow to start, and then she brings the bottle down when she wants the flow to stop or when the baby needs a break. So anytime that the baby is showing a stress cue, she brings the bottle down so that flow will stop. As you can see in that video, baby, you were able to control the speed of the milk flowing through your baby. So you would tip up the bottle with filling up the nipple so that she was eating an adequate amount. And then whenever any of those stressor signals were indicated, you would tip the bottle back down to make sure that she wasn't getting overwhelmed by the milk and she was able to breathe. You can use side-lying on a normal baby as well, full-term baby. I know that some people actually recommend it because your baby, when you are actually breastfeeding and doing the bottle, it actually helps because bottles are super fast, super easy for a baby to eat. When you're doing side-lying, you can kind of slow down that milk so they actually have to suck a little bit harder, just like they would on the breastfed. When I was practicing nursing her and when I eventually started nursing her at home, I was alternating between bottle and breast. Every time I was breastfeeding, I felt like she wasn't quite getting enough. I wasn't sure. It was just kind of my own intuition that my baby's not getting what they need. And I know a lot of moms feel that when they're breastfeeding. If you ever do feel like that, there are some resources that you can use to see if they actually are getting enough. What I did was I scheduled a lactation consultant after we got out of the hospital. So a couple weeks after that, I just still felt like she wasn't getting enough every time I was breastfeeding her. So I went to my appointment, and what they do is they will weigh your baby before. So you're supposed to bring your baby in hungry. They will weigh your baby before, and it's weighed in grams or milligrams. It's the very small increments just because they're not going to be eating a whole lot, so they want to be able to make sure that it's a very accurate reading of what they're doing. They're not going to be measuring in pounds just because you're not going to drink a pound of milk for a baby. So anyway, so they will weigh your baby before, and then you will breastfeed, and then directly after you're done breastfeeding, they will weigh your baby again to see how much they were getting. Unfortunately, I was right. She was only getting about an ounce each time that she was breastfeeding, and that was she was breastfeeding for 30 minutes. So you got to think she was working really, really hard, but she was only getting an ounce of milk, which was not adequate for her feeding. She was drinking probably about 3 or 4 ounces by that time. After that, I made the very hard decision just to go straight to bottles. I kind of felt like a failure at that time, but I knew that that was what was best for my baby. My lactation consultant did tell me that if I really wanted to, I could fight for it. We could practice more, but I just was over it at that time. I felt like failure already. I didn't want to just kind of disappoint myself even further, so I just eventually accepted the fact that we went to bottles. And honestly, for me, it was the best decision that I made because it just took the stressor off of me of feeling like a failure. Like, I knew that she was getting enough. I knew that Tanner could help me. I knew that grandmas and grandpas could help me feed her. Like, it was just such a relief when we went straight to bottles. And I'm not telling you what to do or anything. If you exclusively breastfeed, I know that's a beautiful thing. I know that people do both bottles and breastfeed. Unfortunately, in my circumstance, I just had to go to bottles, which was the best thing for me. So honestly, you do what's best for you. Don't let me tell you what to do. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned something, which is my whole purpose in doing these. If you're feeling like a failure or you're feeling kind of distressed or hopeless in your breastfeeding or bottle journey, just remember to reach out to your support people and remember to do what's best for you. In order to take care of your baby, you also have to be taking care of yourself.